Most people buying crypto don't really understand that crypto has a 4-year cycle. Thankfully, we're in that year of the cycle where things go absolutely crazy, and we are seeing exactly that. If you've been with us for a while, you've been accumulating during the time when prices were cheap as hell. And this coming year is the year to reap the rewards of those actions. Let's take a look, as there is some great price action happening on Bitcoin today, and also some of the higher risk altcoins that I've been covering during the bear market. We also have some viewer suggestions to look at that we'll take a look at. We have Paul joining us today for some price action analysis. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. Now, if you, like me, came into crypto because you realize there's potential here for life-changing gains over a greater 4 to 8 year period, and you're looking for discussions on becoming a solid, unshakable, savage crypto investor, kind of like a Navy SEAL of crypto investing, you're in exactly the right place and with the right family, the Rainmaker family. Now, the reason I created this channel is because I was once new to the crypto space 7 years ago. And back then, I was looking for a crypto channel and a group that understood crypto as an investment and discussed the most important things like this 4-year investment cycle, specific projects and the pros and cons of those projects, the risks, the guesses, the upside if it came together well. And I didn't find that, so we created it. Now I say we because it isn't just me anymore. It's a family of like-minded rainmakers. And you'll see them here in the chat already. You'll see some of them in our free Telegram group, and there is a link to that below. You will definitely find them in our private Patreon group. Now, the private Patreon group allows you access to the private Discord. The private Discord is where all the discussion is. Now, I hear some people say, I don't like Discord. Look, it is a place where essentially the Rainmaker family really has their chats. That is the place to be, and that is where the best discussion and best info is. There are some added benefits too in that Discord, but you will have to join us to find out. Do note, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself. Paul is an investor in many, many different markets, and none of this to be taken as financial advice. If you haven't already, make it rain on that like button, strap in for this show, and welcome Paul to the channel.
It's good to be here as always, and interesting markets. Been waiting for this for a while. It's nice to see that the altcoins are popping off, and yeah, it's just, really great. It's a good time of year for it to be happening as well, and looking forward to seeing more of it.
Yes, so excited. It's fun seeing this go this way. Like, what I like about crypto is what so many people complain about with crypto, the massive volatility, which means massive lows and then massive highs, which creates a spread for potential gains. Secondly, like most markets are somewhat predictable. Like real estate tends to have a 17 to 25 year market cycle. It was kind of 21 years. We'll see, maybe this one's lengthening. But about every 17 to 21 years, it had a full cycle from hitting a top and bottom and then back to a top. But crypto has this 4-year cycle ever since its first cycle started, its first up cycle of 2013. Every 4 years, it's gone absolutely nuts. So it's somewhat predictable and very, very short compared to many other cycles. And so literally the massive money can be made buying low and selling high within that timeline. So we're in that part of the cycle though, where it goes absolutely crazy. And we're seeing that, like Bitcoin bottomed out at like 14,000. It's again testing $100,000 today. Many of these altcoins bottomed out and are seeing some good price action. And I think we're still early days, but we'll take a look at some different charts and see what we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that not so long ago, people were talking about the fact that it had topped out and that was it. It was all over apparently, and it was all bearish, and we discussed it ad infinitum, didn't we? And people saying, "Oh, am I still bullish?" and things like that. Even though these cycles are there, it's like the market does a very good job of convincing people that they're wrong, and that's its job. And so it always feels wrong, and it's also about timing, and that's why it has to be a very personal thing to whoever is investing their money. Are you a short-term investor? Are you a long-term investor? What do you count as short and long term, and what is your strategy for when the market goes down? I mean, as you can see with OMI, you have a strategy that not many people would have, but you have to have confidence that the market is going to turn around. Other people obviously didn't share it, but wanted to share the strategy. In other words, when you don't believe in something, it's very hard to stick with a trading plan. And I'm not saying that I would necessarily do that. My job is to look for changes of trend, to look at the trend and look for changes of trend, and look for something that's unusual to indicate a breakout, and to look at the synchronization of many different macro positions to see whether they're pointing one way or another. And that's what helps to time the markets ultimately. And it is interesting within that one of the most important things is sentiment. And sentiment, I think, continues to be on the side of, yeah, crypto's gone up, but it's still too high, and we need to wait for a pullback to buy, if at all. So it's not gone ballistic, crazy, all those things that we're looking for. I think that's going to take a big move in the altcoins, like the same sort of moves we're seeing in Bitcoin in the altcoins and some more. And then I think we'll be in a zone where it will garner the attention of the wider world, and that's when it's going to start to be the beginning of the end potentially. But as we've said many times, those bridges need to be crossed when we come to them, and for the moment it's steady as she goes. Now, that doesn't mean that the market will just keep going up in a straight line. Anything that's moved up fast has the potential to come back, and Bitcoin is volatile, and the alts are 100 times more volatile by nature of the space. But the macro position still does support further upside in everything. And interestingly, we're seeing data coming out, and I see that Chris Ashby's asked a question about CPI, which is really important. So we're going to still keep an eye on what the numbers are telling us, but ultimately it's what the market is forward looking towards, and that's still saying risk on. So few darker patches, but they're mainly in Europe. The FTSE slightly underperforming, maybe because the currency's strong. Who cares? You guys out in Canada and America and elsewhere, you're not going to really care at all. America's the biggest economy. China, we can look at the charts, massive rally. We had that first rally, and then it came off, and everyone said it was just nothing and to ignore it, and it's come right back in their faces. So I think people have shorted the Chinese market. It went up a lot, they shorted it again, and now they're getting to get it back in their faces because they're fighting the Chinese government, which ultimately is going to control the market higher. So there's a lot of risk on stories about, and the charts are just still pointing to more upside.
Yeah, fully agreed. I'm looking forward to that time in the market where everything goes crazy and everybody, basically much of the media, much of everyone is talking about crypto. We're not there yet. We're just in the early gains, kind of as Bitcoin leads the cycle. Remember, Bitcoin bottomed out at 14,000. Then it went up to like 30, 40, bounced back to 26 and did those things. Some of these altcoins are having some of their early gains, but there's a lot further upside ahead. Now, may not go straight there. Some of these altcoins that have had some really big gains, they might pull back for a little bit. And like Paul said, like they don't run up in a straight line. They then cool off. And if that happens, and it probably will, that's totally okay. The bigger thing we're waiting for, at least I'm waiting for, is when everybody's talking about crypto. That is the sign that it's the beginning of the end of this cycle. That is the time to be taking profits, putting them to the sidelines, because nothing runs for forever, especially when it runs up so sharply. And you don't want to be left holding the bags of things that retrace 99%. It is painful. Some of those altcoins retrace that much or more. All right, so we are live. Tons of people in the comments today. Good to see everyone. All right, got a few additional things people want us to look at here, and we got a number of things. What markets, Paul, are you looking at that might be impacting money flows, such as China's market, as you mentioned previously?
Yeah. So as always, starting off with the Dow Jones upward trend, and I don't know whether time signals or there's some kind of. Occasionally, I'll look at some form of percentage move and see if I can be, ultra clever and pick a top. Ultimately, that's a silly thing to do because the market will probably just keep going all the way through it, and I shouldn't do that. But the trend is still up. The main thing in technical analysis is when the trend is up, follow the trend, and the trend is still up. So, not fighting that. Dow's up. The Dow Jones Transports is still flirting with a breakout. That's all good. What do you know? Nasdaq is even higher, and that looks like it's going to break even higher. This is very smooth, nice looking price action that looks like it's ready to move even higher from here. S&P, you'd expect the same. Russell 2000, love the fact that it's just poked its head over by a smidge, or maybe it's just matched it. I'm not sure. That's so close. The previous high, but again, I love the fact that so many people are bearish on the small cap stocks in America, and they've just continued to push higher. And this particular chart is looking really bullish for a breakout to the upside, like a big one. So all steady there. And if we look at the VIX, that's tending to go a bit lower. Around this time of year, volumes start to thin out more because of European holidays. I know it's not such a big thing in America, but it is a big thing in Europe. So you might see volume start to tail off, and then there's potential for a bit of volatility whilst the bigger holidays are around Christmas. And when that's happening, you might see some unusual moves, I should say, but it would be in the context of low volume, and that might make the VIX tick up a little bit just because it's the time of year. But generally speaking, everything's looking smooth, and the trend's going up. So we shall see. And again, that's no guarantee it will continue. It's just that that's how this is looking now. Long term, it looks bullish. Short term, yeah, we may be in for a correction. The charts are looking good. Now, as I said, there was a couple of points. There's the FTSE that is still stuck in a range. The French stock market is really underperforming badly, and the DAX index is really outperforming. So, I just thought I'd show you those three things. It's a bit like looking at Bitcoin and ETH at one point and say Solana. You get these different flavors of where the trend is, but they're all in an upward trend. It's just that they're in different stages of that upward trend. Within Asia, the most important thing for me is the fact that, first of all, start of the year was a big. When was it? I think it was over here at the start of 24. You had reports saying that the Chinese market was going to definitely go down. That was the Hong Kong market. The Chinese market here, it was a massive sell, and the trend was going to go low, and it's done nothing but go up since then. It went up in a first wave, corrected, then we got this crazy move to the upside, which got sold into, I'm pretty sure it got shorted into, and now it's starting to push back up again. It's highly volatile, but the path of that, I think, has changed from the downward trend to the upward trend. It looks fairly pronounced. So overall, that's looking bullish. I know there's the tariff situation and Trump and whether that's going to affect China. I think ultimately commerce will find a way once they start looking at bucks and how much it could potentially, in some ways, hurt US companies. I think it will be a bargaining chip that may come off the table. But again, we need to see. Gold, silver, precious metals all doing pretty well and moving up. Copper's an important one. That's consolidating on a trend line, but that's ready to move higher, I think. Moving over into the what we're going to look at. Yeah, I was thinking of what Chris was asking about and looking at the 3-month money. Let's get a non-log chart. Now, 3-month money, United States money, still going down, isn't it? It's in this downward trend, 4.27%. So that would imply CPI wasn't really much of an interesting event. inflation, I think, is going to turn around. So inflation's going to go back up, and I want to see when they pick up on it. And it's probably going to be that they swing interest rates too low, the market starts to get really hot, and then they have to start swinging it back up again. But it's almost like the party is really, really, banging away. Everyone's having a great time. They're not really going to be noticing that the rates are going to go up, and that will spell the beginning of the end of the equity move and the risk on move. But it can take quite a lot of interest rate moves to the upside for that to take effect. So in other words, the warning signs get ignored for quite some time. So I think we're a few stages away from that. We're still in the cutting phase. And what might surprise people is rates might be cut even more than expected, possibly. So at least one more 25 basis point cut should occur this month. And then we'll have a look at potentially one more next month, but in January. I don't know whether that would happen really. But either way, this is still pointing to softer rates. So usually you get some form of anticipation a few months ahead that we've reached the bottom. I thought that might have been around here, but the chart still looked bearish. So it was like, what are we going to see? So it's continuing its downward trend. 2-year money, as you can see, looks very different. It's hit a low and it's bounced. And 10-year money has done the same. So what it's saying is out in the curve, further out in the markets, money is becoming more expensive. And that's exactly what you'd expect in a healthy economy. So it's whether short-term rates, which should be lower than long-term rates, is how low will short-term rates go before they need to be moved up because they're going to start to cause too much inflation. And inflation is definitely going to be something that will be an issue further down the curve, because you can't create this much wealth without it impacting on how much people pay for stuff, whether it's flights, holidays, whether it's going out and eating in restaurants, or whether it's booking islands for parties, whatever it's going to be. This money will get spent, and it will cause some form of inflation that will be tangible. Ultimately, property prices will be going higher as well. So that's all looking pretty much in line with expectations. The dollar index is the final thing that had one down week. We're counting all the weeks up, and it's had one down week. Admittedly, that was a strong down week, but we still had a following up week. And will this week end the week higher? We're not sure, but it's definitely come off its high of 108, and that looked like a spike. So this could well be a topping area. And I'd like to think that it is, but it is fighting back. It's not making it easy. So we had a top, market's come down, it's going back up again. So will it sort of range trade here and then start to drop? We shall see. We shall see. But this spike is a bit like the August 5th low spike in the stock market for me. That was the panic move. That was Trump talking about tariffs and everything, reacting. Some of the currencies that are in the index are weaker, and some are turning over and getting stronger against the US dollar. So there is what we call fragmentation going on. And you might be thinking, crypto channel, what do I care about the dollar? Well, it's a really important sort of cog in the wheel of risk on. If the dollar goes down, that's going to accelerate the stock market higher. It will accelerate moves into crypto. And as we've seen, it's already accelerated moves into gold. Arguably, some of the war kind of risks for buying gold have come away, but the trend's been pretty fierce to the upside and looks ready to break up again. So there's some really interesting risk on trades. It's unusual, as I say, for the dollar to be this strong, given how weak gold is. I mean, it's obviously not impossible because it's happening right now. But if somebody had told you gold would be trading around $2,700 and the dollar index would be trading around 107, I think they'd find that quite surprising. But in any case,
as the dollar becomes weaker, then gold takes off. But in this environment, the dollar's still relatively strong, and yet gold is really, really high.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's right. I mean, gold went into a range for a long time, and by a long time it was March 22, kind of broke out in December 23, which ended up being a false break, and then it broke properly in March 24. So, you know, it took 2 years pretty much of sideways, even more actually, if you go back to August 20. I mean, it's been range bound for a long time, and then it finally broke. And then look at the trend. With the dollar index, it made this trend. So we were bullish on the dollar until 114, and then there was signs, well, we thought it would go down, so it started to go down, and then we've got this consistent sideways price action that's just been grinding out. It's not an upward trend, it's a sideways range, but you know, there were so many times when it looked like it was going to break 100 and go, and it failed. But it's not a, so it's still in this ranging, you know, this price action. But who would know that Trump would talk about tariffs, and maybe this is the tariff rally, and markets sort of getting used to that idea, and it will turn over. I mean, there was war as well, and Middle East conflicts that, again, they come and go. They people talk about it, and then it becomes the only important story, and then all of a sudden people aren't talking about it anymore. It comes off the headlines and people kind of forget about it. So, you know, we'll have to see. I mean, because ultimately, you know, I need technical evidence that the market has topped, and it looks like this is an interim top, which could then bring it back all the way down here, and then it'll start to get really interesting again. But for the moment, the dollar is fighting back a little bit. That is for sure. So in terms of the majors and cryptocurrency, we go to the big one, Bitcoin, still in an upward trend. We got an extended breakout. There's a lot of people looking to sell around 100,000. It's huge psychological level. It's not surprising that it's coming off this point. You know, lots of people will be taking profit. You know, that would have been for many a long-term target. And, you know, people also trying to be heroic and sell the top. So they'll sell at 100,000. And I think ultimately, just based on psychology, it will probably go much higher, much quicker, and then it will come off. So we might see one more move up, and then a longer form of consolidation. But there's a couple of interesting things going on. I mean, I think ETH is a better play here, and that's because it's still tapping on this high 4,030 level, and it's done that 1, 2. This will be the third time, and it's not at its all-time high. Coupled with the fact that now where is it? Let's see if it's this one. Yeah, maybe it's this one. Looks pretty good. So this is the ETH against Bitcoin, which is looking like it's making some form of reversal pattern. So that to me suggests either ETH goes up a lot. So this would be a left shoulder. This is head. So this area here is left shoulder. This would be the head. This would be the right shoulder. So this is an early stage potential to indicate that ETH will outperform. You know, it might fail, but that's kind of what it looks like. It looks like it's going to do it. And on the actual individual charts, it looks like that. It looks like Bitcoin might go up a bit, but people are still going around looking for things that haven't moved yet. So, you know, I find that interesting. I think if I had to buy one or the other right now, for me, I think I'd buy ETH and look for a breakout. It has underperformed, and maybe that's wrong. I don't know. We'll see. But the risk reward for me looks like it's turning, and I think that applies. And what we're seeing anecdotally in a lot of other altcoins is right. You know, this is why they're popping off, because it's like the brick and the rubber band that we've talked about many times. Nothing happens for ages, and then boom, it all happens at once.
Yeah, exactly. Now, did you cover CPI yet? Chris had asked about that here.
Yeah, sorry, my long ramble. I did mention it in passing. I just said it kind of came in and pretty, I thought, in line with expectation, but I was more interested in what the markets did rather than what the number is, because I'm thinking inflation is going to come in. So I'm expecting CPI potentially to print a little bit worse. But what I was more interested in was that 3-month money and whether it showed any change in the potential for another rate cut. And ultimately it hasn't. So it looks like to me, risk on is still okay, and the equity markets are the most sensitive of all, and they haven't reacted to it. So I'll have to drill down and have another look at the numbers and see if there's anything that was of note, but it seemed to be pretty much in line with expectations.
Yeah, I got another question I'm going to put up in just a second. Where'd it go? Justin asked, Paul, in your trading strategy, do you consider fair value gaps? If so, do you only consider higher time frames, days and weeks, because you look more long term?
I'd have to know what you mean by fair value gaps. What is I mean, there's price gaps, and gaps are defined by where they are in a trend. So at the beginning of a trend, it's called a breakaway gap, and then during a trend, it's called a running gap, and at the end of a trend, it's called an exhaustion gap. So gaps tend to appear at certain parts of certain trends. So it depends what you mean. I've not heard the phrase fair value gap. And what people normally say with gaps is they say gaps are always filled, which isn't true. So what that means is if the market is like going along sideways and then suddenly breaks out to the upside in a huge move, they'll say, oh, well, it'll always come back. And that's sometimes it does, and it comes back and tests the gap. And sometimes it comes back 2-3 years later, which is no good to anybody. If you're short, you can't hold a position that long. And sometimes it doesn't come back. So it really depends on context.
Yeah. Another question before we get into specific crypto analysis, some of the altcoins. Roman Z asked, can Trump entering the office be like the buy the rumor, sell the news event? Despite all the regulations being positive, long term, it's supposed to help, of course.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there. Yeah, it's one of those things that I think, as we were saying on one of the other shows, it's very difficult to show the counterfactual of things like this. So that's why the general market news media has this ability to talk about what's going on, because it's very hard to prove whether something's right or not. The market went up because Trump said this, the market went down because Biden said that. It's really hard to prove whether that's actually true or not. And so when it comes to things like this, I would take a step back and say, and obviously I'm looking at it from a technical point of view and just kind of putting in the other information as secondary. But if we go back and look, has anything happened that we didn't expect? And the answer is no. So the market was expected to go up anyway. Crypto Cycles was suggesting that it was going to go up anyway. So the only thing that's happened is there's been a sharp revaluation of that view. Now, you might say, well, if Harris had got in, it wouldn't have happened. I would argue it would have happened. It just wouldn't have happened in this way, because if you believe that the banks control, or not necessarily banks, but if you believe that commerce effectively influences political situations, then it would be untenable if America was to fall behind in the crypto space and other countries move ahead, because they want to be at the forefront of the financial world. So in other words, it's a trading opportunity, and I think opinion would swing that, and that's open. We could talk about that all night, and you could argue one way or the other, and it would be very difficult to say, who's wrong, because we can't go in a time machine and go back and see. But what you're basically saying is the markets now look really bullish and Trump's going to get in, so shouldn't we just sell? Well, yeah, I mean, possibly, but the trends are expected to continue beyond that. And I think most people are still not believing that the market will go up, and they still think it's overvalued, and they still think crypto's overvalued. So I look more at the positioning. So if everyone's saying, yeah, rah, 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 Trump's in, let's go, we're going to Bitcoin 1 million, and, we've got big headlines and everyone's behind it, that would, I'd say, yeah, definitely. It's like and everyone was saying, yeah, Trump's going to win and everything's going to go booming higher. No, they didn't expect that. So they weren't saying it. The media got it wrong, and we know why they got it wrong. Again, that's another 2-hour podcast, isn't it? But it was pretty obvious to a lot of people that Trump was going to win. And now that he's coming in, I think it's just going to accelerate where it was going to go anyway. It may well accelerate where it's going to go. It's going to end up where it's going to end up anyway.
Agreed. Well, let's jump into some analysis on some of these altcoins, starting off with HBAR.
Yeah, so HBAR. When did we last look at this? Was it a few weeks ago, or I'm trying to remember, because I know we do look at this. I have periodically looked at this, but I can't quite place it.
I don't remember when we last looked. Seems like we looked at it a few weeks back.
Okay, so what we've got here is we had this kind of higher ranging price action, which was obviously very frustrating because it'd gone on January 23, November 24 was a low. Just a month ago, it was flirting with lows. And as you know, I'm very cautious when the markets enter any low or get towards any strong support point. But its advantage was that it was on a higher platform. So this is its lower low, and it's got some decent history. So the breakout point was really here. I mean, you can see that the pattern, the market pattern had changed. And from a kind of double bottom base around 6 cents, it's run into a continuation pattern over this resistance. So at 13 cents, a continuation pattern is just a little pause in a very strong trend. And it's making something similar here. So the headline is that this has got more to go. I think it's going to try and take the high out. Does it need to come back in a retracement? Yeah. Does it feel like the wrong place to buy it? Yeah. Does that mean it's going to go up? Yeah. Because it is hard to buy at these points. So, but I'd also, with any strategy like this, if you're having to buy it whilst it's running, fully expect or build into the strategy that it could come all the way back down to 13 cents, which is a huge retracement. But this is the fun and also the downside of trading things that are really volatile. If it can move 100% in a couple of weeks, then it can move down 100%. Well, not 100%, but you know what I mean. It can retrace massive amounts in exactly that same period. So volatility is high and it works for you, but it also means that the consolidations can be extremely volatile. That's obvious to, I'm sure, everyone listening to this, but it needs to be said because for me, technically, I like a clean entry point, and this is not necessarily a clean entry point. It is where we're approaching a lot of resistance, and that's why the volatility is picking up a little bit. But there's not enough for me to say that this is a top, you see. So I need justification to say, well, that's it. This isn't going to go any further, and I haven't got that. So I have to go with the underlying picture, which is positive. So, so for me, I'd have to say it's a buy.
Yeah, 100% agreed on that analysis. Here's some of my thoughts. First of all, the amazing price on Hedera was during this period. There is not a clean entry here. If you're buying in this zone, you are risking that could pull way back to 13 cents. And so is this a good buy zone? Well, like Paul said, I don't think it's hit the top for this cycle. I think there's more run to come during this cycle. When everybody's talking about crypto and things are going crazy, I think it hits a lot higher. What will it do in the short term? I don't know. The risk is it pulls back to 13 cents. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but it's not a good entry zone for me. This is just a wait. Now, overall, is Paul right that it's a buy because it's probably going to go higher during this cycle? Yes. My weight is just opportunity cost. I like to buy things when they're cheap, when they haven't done a major run. And HBAR is already out of the territory of what I'm buying. Like it's at $11.5 billion market cap. Now it is one of those ISO tokens that I think form the backbone of the financial future. And so some of these market caps, even though they're so high, they possibly can go a lot higher. One of the ones that I really believe in is XRP. Hedera also forms that potential backbone as the enterprise blockchain. They do have on their governing council many of the major players in enterprise business. So they're set up well to potentially be the dominant player in enterprise blockchain. In the coming years, a lot of businesses are going to go towards enterprise blockchain. So they're just set up well for that. So this can go a whole lot higher than where it is. In the short term, what will it do? I just can't say I know. So for me, it's just a wait. Let's take a look at QNT.
Yeah. So QNT, that is one that we definitely have looked at recently because we discussed this big spike, didn't we? And I think that again, the headline for me on this one was it was a buy. We had the August low and it printed a range and then started to move in its first, what we would call impulsive phase that takes it out of its range stroke bearish trend. The trend ended obviously up here, September 21, and it's been in a consolidation. But that's okay because it's a consolidation at a higher level. You know, the overall trend is still up. The rate of the move is, I was going to say it's not as fast as some of the others, but the problem with this spike is it's kind of, you know, it's making the picture look less positive than it really is. I mean, these are big percentage moves, and it's just that it's taken us back into a good resistance zone where it's having a little pause. So, you know, I think this looks positive. I think this looks good, and it should head up. I think this is what I said last time, but it should head up to its all-time high. It should break out. It should be part of a breakout, and we're on our way to this sort of 412, whatever it is, 400 and is that 418. So 418 is the high. It's not going to be a straight line, of course, because there's plenty of supply that wants to get out positions along the way. We'll have to see how those react, but technically, for me, it's doing the right thing. It's pushing up. It's a nice little trend. There's no evidence of a top at this point, and whilst it's above $81, that's the most comfortable level for me. If it for some reason broke below there, then that's where I'd start to be concerned. But you know, that's quite far away from $148. That's, you know, that's some kind of retracement. I'm not saying that that's impossible because it's far away. I'm just saying that technically, given all the volatility and given the trend, that's the most logical place where it would imply that things are starting to turn down. Now, you could get other signals. You know, if we don't look at it for a month, there could be some spike or some other top that would happen in between. But just based on sort of, I always need a parachute level, that would be below $81.
Yeah, Quant, you know, this is what bear markets do. So this was the 2021 high in September of 2021, and it hit like $430, and its bear market low was about $40. And so it's pushed up considerably from there. You see that it broke this trend here and broke to the upside, and then has gone up, went up to $170, pulled back down to 146. So it's on still what I would say is the early part of the bull run trend, and it's got a lot farther to go. A nice little juicy pullback for those that are buying blue chips. You know, maybe this is one that you're interested in. It's a $1.7 billion market cap, so it's still higher than what I'm looking for. But do look at most of their tokens are in circulation, so its fully diluted value isn't much higher than its market cap. I like to see that most of the tokens are already in circulation. It's available on Binance, Coinbase, KuCoin, Kraken, so you can basically buy it if you're in the US or not. I like CoinGecko has a nice write-up on what is QNT or quant. So you can do some good start to your research here. Overall, like, am I buying this? No, I'm in the riskier things, not in blue chips. Now, next cycle, I'll probably go for a more stable, like, it's okay that I don't get as high percent gains, but more stable type investments where I'll be investing more likely into blue chips. If you're throwing like $10 million into projects, then blue chips are often the way to go. You don't have as much upside potential, but you also don't have the volatility. And when you're looking to then cash out, you have plenty of circulation going on, or trading volume, so that you can cash out even to the tunes of tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions over time. So quant, good one, good suggestion from one of the Rainmaker family. Let's take a look at OMI.
Yeah. So where's it gone? OMI. Yeah. So again, this was one where it showed initial signs of a low around here, and it was a small kind of nibble buy. Then it broke the trend line. That added to the position, and now it's fighting to get over this big watermark that we've had on the chart for a very long time, 5503. Crazy volatility, isn't it? I mean, it's just swinging all over the place. That has to be people exiting who, either hold it here or have obviously bought very short term and just seen incredible gains and just gone, yes, I'm having that, thank you very much. Overall, it's still a buy. I don't particularly like the way it's this volatile. I'd prefer it if it was a bit smoother. Usually when something is going to squeeze and accelerate higher, you see more of a compacted range before it does that. So I'm not necessarily saying it won't break massively high. I'm just saying you usually just get this compression, which is more in the sort of range that I'm showing on the chart here, rather than these big swings, which are more indicative of somebody or positions being exited. So for the moment, I would say it's still bullish, but just a little cautious because of this volatility. But it's in the right spaces. It's trading around this level that we said was important for it to be over, for the bull market to be intact. It's had a sharp rally, which indicates a trend change that we were suspecting from this move anyway. Can we draw a trend line, an upward trend line? Well, we couldn't at any point along here, but we can now from this point here, from the 13th of November low, we can now draw an upward trend line. So this is the trend rate. And whilst it's above there, I'm going to remain bullish. And you can see that the rate it's gone up compared to this trend rate is accelerated. So that's why you will see, the market pause. And that's not to say it has to come back to this trend line. It can deviate from it and create a new one at a higher rate, which is perfect. But the macro situation supports further upside. It's good that it's showing signs of life, especially now, because with everything else moving, if it hadn't moved, that would have been a big red flag. So it's important for lots of reasons that it has done this. It's moved into this positive space. So yeah, so for me, it's still a buy. And I have to, as I say, I have to be slightly cautious of certain elements of it, but it was got a good build up from this low, and from those lows, there's quite a bit of margin before we need to start worrying again. So that's a nice turn of events.
Yeah, I like to invest in things based on what I feel like the value behind it is, and that comes from research of the underlying project, the strength of the underlying project. Like, do they have revenues coming in? How sustainable are they? Are they going to make it into the new bull run? Is what they're doing, is it in a narrative that can really take off as money comes into the bull market? And this is one of my favorite tokens in the crypto space. I really like what they're doing with their DEVVE app and their digital collectibles with major brands like Disney and Marvel and DC. So I like so much about this. But sometimes when the pullbacks happen, the pendulum swings too far. And some people just do not understand investing. And I'll share this story. If you've been following the channel for a long time, you've heard this story before, but it really helped me understand that some people just don't get it when it comes to investing. They want a situation that never arises. So people want to know that everything's fixed and still get a cheap price. Meaning, for example, I was driving around with this guy and we were talking about real estate investment. And he's like, see this 20 acres here where they're building a Walmart. My family had the option to buy that. And I think it would have been 20 years prior. Buy that. And the guy offering to sell it to him said 5% down and he would finance it at 0% interest. And like the amount was like $30,000 or something really, really small for that 20 acres, right? And I said, wow, why didn't you guys do it? And he said, well, because there was nothing there. It was just land and everything seemed so far away from that. And you didn't know for sure that like it was going to go that way. And I was like, well, you know, that road was actually already cut in. It was just a dirt road and it was on the city plan that it was there. And he's like, yeah, I knew all that. But it just wasn't clear that anything was going to be there. And gosh, we'd be multimillionaires because they sold a segment of it to Panda Express for $1 million for that piece of land. So like the total piece would have probably been worth like $15 million. I don't know what Walmart paid for their portion of it, but they would have made a fortune there. And I said, well, you know, I can drive you up north farther where there's more land that the roads are cut in and kind of planned out, but there's nothing there. I couldn't get you 20 acres for 30,000 anymore. I could maybe get you 10 acres for 30,000 way up there. And he's like, well, why would I buy way up there? There's nothing there yet. And it dawned on me, he's looking for a situation where all the problems are fixed. Everyone already gets that that's worth a ton, and he's going to be able to buy that for $30,000. And that situation doesn't happen. With investing, it's about taking reasoned risks where you're playing out the risks. See, you want a situation with massive upside where there's no risk that it's not going to go that way. But he's not going to be able to buy a piece of land where Walmart's coming in and offering for a segment of it, say $5 million, and he's able to buy that land for $30,000. That situation just doesn't happen. So a lot of people have lost faith in this token because the price has gone down, and they make the fundamental assumption that what has been going down is can continue to go down. And as it hit this price upside going like this, there's some people like, finally my chance to sell so that they can then run the token, run their money into things that have been pumping and gone 5x or 6x or 7x already. And they feel like this was their chance to escape what they feel like is a dead token, what they feel like is land 20 years ago that is way out there and nothing's happening yet. Well, that's just not how investing works. Investing is buying, like the company underlying or behind this, DEVVE, is one of the strongest ones in the crypto space. In my opinion, already has massive revenues coming in. I don't see really why their token won't do massively well in the upcoming bull run. In fact, I expect that it will. One of the challenges that happened with the OMI token is that it went up so high during the last bull run that, remember, the pendulum swings too far each way. And let me show you how far the pendulum swung. So it went 3,000x from the bottom up to here. So from the very bottom here to the top, 3,000x. Well, that merits a massive retracement. Now, how massive would that retracement be? It was unclear. There wasn't a lot of resistance lines here on its way up. It just shot so far up. It wasn't very clear what the downside potential would be. And it's come way back down. I think the bottom is in. And it's now starting its upside trend. But a lot of times when things finally reverse like this, people see that as their chance, their last ditch chance to exit. And they think it's just going to, whatever's been happening is just going to continue to happen. And they're going to throw their money into, like, Bitcoin is actually a big one that some of these people that sold out rolled their money into. Some sold it into XRP because they look at the last 3 months and what XRP has done, and they figure what has been going up is going to continue to go up for forever. Now, if they roll it into XRP, well, and they hold on to XRP for the right timeline, I think that they'll do well. If they hold on to Bitcoin for a long timeline for the next 20 years, well, maybe it even does well enough. It gives them a really, really good return. But a lot of times they sell what's low to buy what's high. And then when they bought what just went up 5x or 6x retraces on them by, say, 50%, they panic out of that and they end up losing money in the middle of a bull run, which is crazy to me. So OMI is not only not a sell, it's still a really big buy for me. I feel like anything under this price here is an amazing price. That this was just a gift that I never expected to happen. Thank goodness it came down so low. I was able to dollar cost average in and double how much OMI I had over this time period. And I just look at it as a gift. I feel like the current price is still a gift. I think the fundamental longer term value is much, much higher than this. The pendulum just swung too far back, and it's going to swing too far to the upside when things turn around. So we'll see how it plays out. I don't have a magic crystal ball that tells me what the future is like. I'm just playing probabilities, and I think the probabilities are stacked really well that this one has a lot more upside. All right, let's take a look next at DEVVE.
Yeah, so DEVVE has been making this consolidation pattern for a while. We talked about it, how the trend ended here, or the downward trend ended. We got this first wave, and then it went into a consolidation that kind of made people probably think nothing's going to happen here. But it was squeezing into a bullish breakout, and I was looking at it last week. We were just talking offline about this, and I meant to mention it, but we have spoken about it a few times before. And we talked about this breakout point at 0.49. And so it's been kind of well documented that it was making a base, but it finally had broken out, and a lot of things have done that too. So there's a big shopping list of things that have had a good breakout. So the good news is it's taken the high out and it's squeezing higher. It's moving in a nice trend. I think the next big level for this is the psychological one at $1. That was where it bounced from before it then had the big break. So I think there's going to be a lot of resistance up at $1, people taking profit. But be good for it to get there. That's still a big percentage move. Overall, it's still a buy. We have to see how it performs when it gets near to this big level. And it is one of the ones that hasn't got a lot of history. So we have to be, a little bit more cautious with it. But if you look overall, if we draw a line here, you can see how it's mirror imaged. We've got this downward move, and then it's mirror imaging on the upside, which is exactly what we want to see. We want to see the rate of incline to be just as fast as the rate of decline. And if you look at the rate of decline, you can also see areas where it's corrected. And sometimes that can indicate a similar correction. So you might get a pullback to here and then a move back up again. So, and that would be a normal kind of retracement type of volatility move in its trend. But I think the main trend is this one here. So again, whilst it's above this line, whilst there might be some volatility along the way, that for me becomes if it breaks this, then the trend is in doubt. And as long as it's accelerating above it, that's a really good sign. So for me, it's still a buy. And we'll look to see what it does in the short term.
Awesome. I really like this one. It's interesting that somebody recommended HBAR, and then DEVVE came from viewer suggestions as well. DEVVE is competing in the same space as HBAR for enterprise blockchain business. And there aren't a lot of blockchains that are competing for this. Realize that most corporations are not going to store their data on public blockchains. So they're not likely to store their data on Avalanche or on ETH or on other things. They're most likely going to look for enterprise blockchains that can require private access. So not just anyone can write to them. They're permissioned blockchains rather than permissionless blockchains. Like anybody can write to Cardano. Anybody can write to some of these public blockchains, but these permission blockchains, you have to have permission to write to them. And that's a better solution for what business needs or enterprise blockchain is. And so DEVVE competes in that same space, though their market cap is a lot smaller. So let's see, HBAR's market cap is, let's see, it's an $11 billion market cap, and DEVVE is at, it's almost 75 cents, so it's right under a $60 million market cap. So 200x from here, it would be at where HBAR's market cap is. Now realize HBAR is so one of the selling points of HBAR was that it had much better transaction speeds because it uses a hash graph rather than blockchain. It could do 10,000 transactions per second is what the promise was. I think it actually is doing close to that. That's much faster than what Bitcoin can do, much faster than what ETH can do. So it's faster than those. Now, DEVVE coming in can do 8 million transactions per second. Will DEVVE ever catch up to HBAR and surpass it? I don't know. HBAR has a massive advantage in this space in that their governing council makes up a lot of the big players in the enterprise space. So they have a massive head start as far as timing. The best technology doesn't always win. And who knows, maybe HBAR continues to upgrade what their capabilities are and can do much faster transactions per second. And they get that business. Remember, Microsoft didn't always have the best technology. They had the right partnerships and the right marketing that they beat their competition. If anyone remembers way back in the day for writing papers, there was Microsoft Word and then there was Corel's WordPerfect. And WordPerfect was a far superior technology, better earlier on, but essentially Microsoft won that, not having the better technology. And that's assuming DEVVE is better than HBAR. If you're just judging by transactions per second, well, then it's clearly better. Ultimately, we'll see how that goes. But if DEVVE just catches up to where HBAR is, then boy, it's going to be some big gains. So going back to the chart, still a buy for me, but I covered it endlessly at these prices. I thought it was tremendous. Covered it in my top 5 picks. And so, yes, it's run up some. It's not as cheap as it was. It bottomed out at like 12 cents, which was a ridiculously, amazingly low price. And it's now up to 75 cents. I think it has so much more room to run. Most of the crypto space is completely unaware of DEVVE. It's not on their radar. They're not thinking about it yet. What caused these early pumps when it first launched? I don't know. I was confused by this right after it launched. It did catch some traction, went all the way to $2. And according to this, $2.26. I think it hit $2.41 actually. Then it came back down, and this is normal as token vesting happens. And now it's going back off to the races, it looks like. So we'll see how this plays out, but I expect it's going to do quite well from here. It's definitely in the zone of market caps that I like. So looking at this market cap, still only a $60 million market cap for a layer 1 blockchain that can do 8 million transactions per second. That's a crazy low price. The fully diluted valuation is 223 million, so a lot higher. It looks like their circulating supply is about 80 million right now. The total supply is 120 million. The max supply is 300 million. So yeah, there's more tokens that can come into circulation, but all their pre-sale vesting has already happened. So those are already out in circulation. I think CoinMarketCap does give you a breakdown of more vesting schedule. See, look at a lot of the early vesting happened. This is what pushed the price down as tokens were vested to pre-sale investors. They got sold off. So seed round and private round investors, a lot of those got sold, pushed the price down because many of those guys were in profit. They could sell even at those low prices and make profit. Now a lot of that's happened. And so now the vesting pressure is going to be a lot lower. I think this is time when DEVVE is going to do quite well. Cool. Let's take a look at Fury. This was one of the suggestions in our comments from last week's video for us to look at. And so we're going to take a look at Fury and see what's going on with it.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, I was I clicked away looking at some other markets, and I've got to get back up, get it back up there. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I was just looking at some of the tech stuff, by the way. Some of the tech stocks are doing really well, and I think that's a good sign. But yeah, the chart of Fury, it's this is one that obviously is in a consolidation, and it hasn't run with everything else, so I'd be slightly cautious of it. But what I like about it, it's got this build up of resistance. It's almost like tempting the market to take it through this resistance point at 15 cents. And if it gets through that, because it's been so perfectly tested, that could be the start of a great breakout. So as a breakout play at 15.5 cents, if it did that, then I think it'd be worth nibbling and seeing how far it goes. The trend has been quite aggressive to the downside, so we have to be, again, slightly cautious until we get a proper signal. But at least it's forming potentially some form of base in the fact that it's been going sideways now since September. So it's a few months of sideways price action. The downside here is that clearly everything else has moved and it hasn't, but things do happen in waves. So we want to see some form of acceptance that it's moving higher, some form of buy-in signal. And we haven't seen anything that's different on this chart at this point right now. So it looks pretty much the same as all these moves here. It's just trading this range. So what we're looking for is a sign that it is going to change, like a very sharp candle or bar, 2 or 3 bars that run into this resistance. That would tell me that potentially it's ready to break, and bigger moves than the ones that we've seen before. So we got, say, for example, this big bar here, but it wasn't followed by another one. It's just a small one, another small one, and then it corrected. So we want to see 2 or 3 of these big bars that would take it either up to, depending where it starts, or through this resistance, and that would indicate that the trend has changed. But for me, it would be a wait until we see that. It's not quite a sell until, if it was to break this low, it would be a sell for me. But it's a wait until we see some form of breakout. And again, given the macro situation, I would put that at a greater than even chance because so many projects are moving higher.
Yes. I hadn't looked at engines of Fury that I can remember. Maybe I did a while back, but I really love where its chart is now. See how this rate of decline has slowed, and a lot of that is due to tokens coming into circulation that pushes the price down. Now, sometimes CoinMarketCap will give us a breakdown of what the coins entering circulation looks like, and I don't see that here, though I'd like to. So from what we can tell, the token started trading in, looks like, May. And so here we are in December. So we have 6 months of probably tokens vesting. The market cap is 3.18 million with a fully diluted market cap of about 15 million, which means that just a fraction of their tokens are in circulation. Looks like about 20%. It's 25 million in circulation out of 120 million. Okay, so about 20% are in circulation. Probably some more of those continue to come in circulation, but this is what I like to see on the charts. Is I like to see it slowing down and like bottoming out. This is a great suggestion. Market cap is well within what I like. So then doing a little bit of research, I usually click on this Twitter link here and I check out their Twitter. So let me share their Twitter link here. Engines of Fury. Now, 210,000 followers. That's a big deal, though. Realize some companies fake this. And you can tell by how much engagement do they have. Well, it looks like a decent number of views. So 24,000 saw this pin comment here. Okay, so 50 retweets, 76 comments, 317 likes. So they're not getting tons of traction with this engagement. So maybe some of this engagement was like when the market was much hotter or when blockchain gaming was hotter. Blockchain gaming is a little bit out of the narrative right now as the crypto market focuses on other things. But I like what I'm seeing here. It looks like the actual game itself is a lot like Diablo 3. So there is a lot of people that like that type of game. There you kind of get a feel for what it looks like, the game itself. Yeah, interesting. I think, remember, some of what investing is taking what we know about things and then making some calculated guesses on where they might end up. So that person that passed up that land deal, you could have taken some calculated guesses that this was a major road. There was a going east to west. There was a major road going north to south. And that north to south road, only part of that had been cut in. The rest didn't quite line up, but hadn't been cut in. But it was a good estimate that that's where they were going to cut it in. So there were just some unknowns, and you had to make just a little bit of educated guesses to put everything together. And right now, the main focus isn't on blockchain gaming, but I do think blockchain gaming is a narrative that hits really big this cycle. And at a certain point, it becomes so big that people that don't know anything about video games are throwing money at video games. And at that point, it is sell time. It is not buy time. That is a very risky time to be buying. Right now, I feel like the risk is much lower. Almost nobody's talking about it, especially people that aren't following crypto. Their mind is not on blockchain gaming. I think that comes later as crypto goes crazy, and then people realize that blockchain really revolutionizes game item ownership. And then the pendulum swings too far to the upside, and everybody's talking about blockchain gaming, even though they don't know anything about video games. And they're all, quote unquote, becoming experts on it. That's when I'm selling into it. If you're waiting for that moment to buy, you're crazy. It's going to go poorly for you. So now is a good time, in my opinion. Like, this is a buy. Now, could it go lower from here? Yes. Paul and I disagree on this only because our strategies aren't exactly the same. He looks for, well, breaks to the upside where it breaks the trend. It's already heading upwards, and he can see that trend. I'm okay with buying what I feel is a bottom, realize that it sometimes then goes cheaper on me, and I'm okay with that because the time frame that I'm looking at, I'm okay with being patient on that money till the blockchain gaming narrative really hits like I think it will. And that's the environment I'll then be selling into. So for me, it's a buy on this one. Good suggestion by one of our community members. I like this one. I was also checking out what exchanges it's on because this might be one that I pick up in the near future. The challenge is I don't have a lot of liquidity free. A lot of the stuff that I'm at isn't up enough that I want to part with it to buy what's cheap. Although with this cheap price right here, it's really, really tempting. Cool. Great suggestion. Let's take a look at WAN chain. And then we have some viewer suggestions from today.
Yeah. jumped in a little too early, didn't I? I put in bumper. So yeah, let me just move that over to one chain. So again, one chain is one that we were discussing that potentially it was making a low. I think it was about 3 or so weeks ago, but it's moving into this big consolidation area that we thought was a good breakout buy at 37 cents, because that was a very nice technical base. But obviously it wasn't to be. And the timing was, it went up, but it obviously negated the signal very quickly and came back down again, and then broke this trend line. So it was looking a little bit negative. But now it's back into this range, and that's obviously a really good sign. It's trending back up. It still needs to get through this 37 cents. That is hanging over the market, and I think it will. But the high above that is obviously 51 cents. Those are the two key levels that it has to take out for it to be, for me to feel that it's properly put the base behind it. But along the way, it's given this, this nice smaller base, and it's resting actually on this prior upward trend that got broken. It's now treating that as support. It's just bounced off that, which is what the markets do sometimes. So we can draw a fresh upward trend line, and I would say whilst it is now above this line here, then it can stay on the buy list because it's established a higher low. The trending market's moving up. Yes, there is some resistance up ahead, but there's also some other major markets that are still pointing to the upside. So money and activity will continue to flow down to other projects. So for me, it's a macro signal. Would it be the first that I would take? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it's the arguments for it buying this against other things are it hasn't run, but I prefer something to look technically better, even if it means buying it higher, because the chances of it going higher increase, if you see what I mean. So once it's running, as we've seen before, things move fast in the right direction. Having said that, I think once it gets through 37 cents, it's going to look a lot better, and there is more chance of that acceleration happening. So whilst it's a buy, I'm still cautious. It's still a cautious buy at this stage. And if it breaks 37 cents, then that will be a kind of accelerated buy for me.
Awesome. OneChain is a strategic partner of the channel. So if you tune in when I do my Friday live streams for my strategic partners, I get tokens that I give away for the giveaways, and OneChain is extremely generous with those. We give away 500 WAN to the winner, which, if that's even at this price, that's over $100 in the giveaways of WAN at current price, which is absolutely incredible. Now, pendulum swing too far to the upside and to the downside. OneChain, in my opinion, should have never gotten as cheap as it has, and it really hasn't broken to the upside yet. And DeFi hasn't really hit the narrative. Now, we looked at Curve, I think, last week, and the major player in DeFi really had a big uptick, running from 29 cents all the way to $1.24. So it 4x'd. But a lot of the rest of DeFi, the smaller coins in DeFi with lower market caps, it hasn't hit yet. And we've seen in a lot of narratives that the big players that people first think of, that they've run up some, but a lot of that hasn't yet cascaded through everything. So I think OneChain will do extremely well when the DeFi narrative hits. I really love their cross-chain bridging technology and everything that they're doing to make chains work seamlessly, so that you don't have to think about what chain you're working on. In the future, people won't even realize what chain they're doing things on, because in the background, technologies like what OneChain is developing will take care of a lot of that stuff for people, so that all they have to think about is what tokens they want or what NFTs they want, and they won't have to think about the underlying technology behind it. Just like the internet at first the internet, you had to know what TCP/IP was, and you had to know the different protocols and know what you were doing. And later it became so easy, you didn't really have to think about you didn't even think about what browser you were just using. You just used whatever browser was easy, and you just went to web addresses, but you didn't have to think about the technology behind it. All right, but we're still in those early days, and WAN chain is one of the technologies, one of my favorite, that's doing that. Its market cap is 51 million. I think the market cap on this can go a lot higher from here. Can go 10, 20, 30, maybe even as much as 50x in a bull run. All right, let's take a look at some of the viewer suggestions. We looked at OMI. Bumper. Let's take a look at Bumper.
Yeah, so Bumper finally showing some signs of life, which is great. This downward trend would not be good for me, you know, and I wouldn't ever buy something that was down here like this. So so it needed to start showing some form of reversal, which it has done. Unusually it's come out of a kind of V low, so it's almost like the market's ignored it, and there wasn't much of a signal that things had turned around, other than the rate at which it was going up was unusual. So if you look at the, you know, the way it was trading here, and the fact that you've just got this green bar and then another green bar that closes right at the high, and then another green bar. Of course, it's not done that before in this trend, so it's telling you that, you know, certainly at this point something has changed, because it's much higher than all these other bars, and you can't justify this downward trend anymore. So that's a really good sign. Now it stopped around a resistance point, so we've got these three resistance points on the way down that are adding a little bit of wood to chop around 2.5 cents. So it slowed a little bit, but again, it's like, as we're saying, with the whole macro scene being positive, now that it's responding in the right way, one would expect it to go further. And it's always difficult when something is underperformed in this way, because you know that there are going to be people who are going to take their profits and want to get out, and that can lean on the coin a bit. But the overall macro situation is bullish, and therefore I would expect it to, once it's gone through this 2.5 cents, to be trading up to the next big level. I have to change the chart to look at the longer term chart, but I know 10 cents was the biggest resistance point, and the closer it gets to that, and if it ever breaks that, that is a major, you know, breakout point. And that is where things could really accelerate. Now you might say, well, okay, but you could still just buy it here. But for me, that is, well, yes, you can, but if it breaks 10 cents, it could be going up at a really fast clip. But you know, obviously we're going to look at it many times before it gets close to that, and if it happens very quickly, then that's a nice problem to have. So overall, it's from it being a definite sell. I mean, if you'd asked me, if we just do this, if you'd asked me here, I would have said, you know, it looks like a sell, to be honest. You know, at the very least a wait, but I wouldn't want to buy something like that. And it's only these few days that have changed that position. So, but now it has changed. Now we've got this update. It is looking bullish, and I think it's you know, I can justify going with it. So I would say it is a small buy at this point, and looking to add on a break through this 2.5 to 2.7 cents area.
Yes, that price action is really strange. It was strange. Even being a huge fan of Bumper, and I think it's been massively undervalued, but I can't fully explain that price action, other than the liquidity is so low that it doesn't take a ton to pump it that much. The price it's been at is a crazy low price. Now I'm going to go to, on TradingView, I wish I had a better chart than this, because it doesn't have much history. You can see the liquidity is pretty low, that somebody probably accidentally put in a huge buy order here, or they put it in on purpose and it pumped it so much and came right back down. So this just shows you how low the liquidity is. And I think they're doing some things to increase their liquidity, which would be great. It will decrease how big the swings are. But it hit a price under 1 penny. And I was looking around. I was like, man, what can I take profits on that I can buy this? It never should have hit this price as far as my perception of their value. And yet sometimes the pendulum swings too far to the downside. And I love that, because often then when things turn around and sentiment goes the other way, they swing too far to the upside. And that's what creates the amazing spread of making tremendous gains. So I still think even at this 2-cent price, it's an amazingly discounted price. That's absolutely incredible. So for me, it's a buy, but I mean, look at the market cap. It's just over $4 million market cap, fully diluted valuation, 5.3 million. So a lot of their tokens are in circulation. This is absolutely incredible. Now, as long as the company can continue to survive until the DeFi narrative hits, they should do amazing. And the company said they have plenty of runway left, or funds to pay the existing team members to keep them until the bull market really hits for them. So for me, it's a buy. This is the type of situation I love. Now, I hold a ton of Bumper. They're one of my favorite, in my opinion, undervalued tokens for this cycle. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this one does. All right, let's see. Justin B asked for you to join us for another After Hours with Paul in Discord. I wonder if next Wednesday, if you could stay late after we do the original video and then jump with us for a private chat in the Discord.
Yeah, I could do that.
That would be awesome. Let's do it.
Okay.
All right, let's see other suggestions we have in here. Algorand, I'm seeing if there's other ones. Savage came before that. Let's take a look at Savage, SAVG.
Did we not look at Savage?
Don't think we looked at them today.
Okay, yeah, maybe we haven't. Sorry, it's just yeah, I've been I was anticipating some, and I'd looked at it and then thought, had we talked about it? But obviously not. So yeah, Savage is this is one that I think is on the, warning signs, really. I mean, the trend is down and it's broken through a major low here. It really needs to pull up. Otherwise, we're going to have to start looking at what the problems are behind it. So the trend, this is the major trend line, or this is the main trend line, which is still down, and it's dug in some support from the 16th of November. So it's like OMI, it's making higher lows, but not quite enough. The pattern to me is very kind of lopsided, and I'm not seeing enough of a trend rate pickup to make me feel like we're about to see the low. Now, again, that doesn't guarantee that it can't go up. I mean, I would have been saying the same about Bumper before it turned around, and it just suddenly turned around. We're in that sort of market where things that don't look like they're going to turn around suddenly move because the macro position is supporting it. So I don't want to, definitely say that this is not going to turn, but there's nothing at this point technically for me to justify buying it. The trend is down, the moving averages are down, the trend line is down. It's at the low point on the chart. I don't really know what that was all about there. That's kind of strange price action. The price action on this, to be honest, either indicates that volumes are very low or something strange is going on, because it has these prints where I just can't really explain it. It just doesn't look normal to me in the way markets normally trade. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's very thin volume, and if it is very thin volume and it's being kind of pushed around by just a few players, that's where you have to be careful, because technical analysis works on the basis of very liquid, it's very hard to influence the market with your positions. It's the collective mind that becomes more predictable. So somebody on their own might make an unpredictable decision, and it's hard to work out whether that is something that you can predict again in the future. But on the whole, the psychology behind technical analysis is that people tend to do the same things again and again. And so therefore, if you're just looking at a few people, they might not necessarily act in that same way. And therefore it makes it harder to predict where the markets are going to go. But as far as this is concerned, for now, for me, it has to be a wait. And it's not a sell, only because I think of the macro situation that it may turn around. But yeah, so but I think there are personally, I think there might be other things that could be looking better. But we shall see. Now, if it breaks this trend line, all bets are off, and it's showing signs of strength, then we can talk about a bull market.
Crypto is really interesting. If you think about what crypto investment really is, it's just early stage business investing. And because there's this 4-year cycle where 4 years everything goes crazy, it really gives crypto projects a better chance to succeed than average in normal early stage business investing, because they don't ultimately need to survive for you to make money. They just need to survive until the next crypto bull run, at which point things tend to go crazy and things that you thought were dead come back to life. Now, I saw this video, goodness, like a year ago, where there was like this crocodile or alligator that was frozen in the river, and it just had the tip of its nostrils poking up above the ice. It was literally frozen in the ice, and you would think that it was dead, but it was just hibernating. It had gone into very low flow, very low things going on, so that it could sustain without eating anything for months at a time. And so a lot of times crypto projects go into this type of hibernation. And you can see that here, like their price action is very, very down. In other words, it's very, very cheap. Its market cap is below $1 million. Now, is it risky? Well, sometimes you don't know till the spring and the ice melts which alligators survived and which alligators did not. And so it's at that point that it's like, okay, let's go to their Twitter and see. So a little bit of recent activity from December 2nd, maybe. They've got this video here. What I do like about SAVG is it does have a good idea of allowing a marketplace for high resolution video where people can buy them as an NFT. So the idea makes sense. In fact, they have a partnership with Samsung, one of the leading TV providers or technology providers in the space for monitors, TVs, and other things. So good partnership. Videos, like their Twitter kind of shares what's going on. So their ideas are very good, but it's been a savage environment for any crypto project. And I'm sure it's been hard for them to catch extra traction in the last 3 years since they launched, because it's been a bear market. So we'll see if they're surviving. Now, I've dollar cost average into SAVG. I would guess that it's going to do very well from here. In fact, the price is at absolute lows. So this is like a bet that if you put money in, you're risking that it could go to zero, that it doesn't survive at all. If it does survive, it can go to a market cap 100x plus of here, because 100x from here is just a $50 million market cap. If it goes to a $500 million market cap, that's 1,000x from here. So massive upside potential with some significant risk that maybe it didn't survive. And the best way to judge if they're still around and working is check out their Twitter activity. And there's not a ton of Twitter activity, which means they're in low flow mode, just like the alligator frozen in the ice. And if they survive, well, it'll do really well. And if they don't, well, you could lose the investment. So I'm not selling what I have. I'm just holding it, hoping that they come back alive. Realized my Axie Infinity investment. There were times where I thought maybe it was dead and chances that it was going to die. And a lot of people sold off during that. They lost faith, sold off, and they didn't get to experience the massive gains that then came later. Great suggestion. Let's take a look at, I think, scrolling through, Algorand, another major player.
Yeah. So Algorand, it has already broken out. I think we covered the breakout, and it's just a question of whether it's going to keep going or not. I think basically it is. Let's just get the chart. So it's had this acceleration, and it's gone through 32 cents, which was the key resistance point. Resistance at 29 to 32. Those 2 points. It's made this double bottom base, very, very symmetrical, and it was looking towards this 70 cents area, which was the big breakout point. This is the end of the previous trend. So given that was, look at how many times it touched it, there, and on that point on the way up. So 70 cents is a big level. I would expect some form of resistance at that point. But whether it'll change the trend, I don't think so. I think it wants to go further, and we could be looking at a move back up to the kind of $2 area into next year, and maybe further. I'd have to go back on the chart. This one doesn't go well. Actually, 19 is is still pretty good in terms of its history, but it's been sort of straight up and then straight down in 100% retracement, and just a little bit more than that, and then a base. So it's through 50% of that, and it should head back up given it's responding to the macro scenario very well. I see no reason why it shouldn't continue. So for me, it's a buy.
I agree with Paul in that Algorand's probably going to go a lot higher during this bull market. Now, am I buying it? It's just outside of it. It's solidly in the blue chip category. It's experienced a little bit of its gain, so it's gone from 11 cents. It's currently trading at 44 cents, so it's about 4x up from the bottom. I think during the bull run, it probably eclipses its previous last market highs of this. Now, will it eclipse back when it launched, where it went all the way up to $3 and something? Maybe I don't know. But for people that are investing tens of millions of dollars, Algorand's in the blue chip category, and sometimes they're really happy if it just goes 5x from here. They make incredible gains because the amount of money that they're investing. Will it go up higher than that? We'll have to see how it plays out. For me, it's just outside the category. If I were buying blue chips and planning on holding them till the market goes crazy and everyone's talking about crypto, then it would be a buy. Am I actually buying it? No, it would be more like I would be taking profits and rolling them into higher risk projects to get the bigger gains. Stuff like some of the ones that we've looked at, like Fury, I like Bumper, DEVVE, other ones like that are higher risk but higher potential gains. All right, let's see. Any news on Drive, reopening of the bridge? I haven't followed it closely, but if you go to their Telegram, that is where you'll get information on that. I'm not sure. I still hold my Drive. I did submit the Drive to get bridged over to SUI. I don't know what the latest is on that. The Telegram is there. If you're in the Discord, you can ask there as well. Even in the Telegram, I think the discussions go pretty vibrant there, that you could find out what people know. Ricardo Crypto says, my girlfriend tells me I'm quite a spectacular pump artist too. Just saying, make pumping great again. Okay. Let's see. Sell and FET. I know I have to wrap up. Dan, would you do me a favor and put that again? Put that in the comment section under the video, and we can look at those next time. I'd love to look at Selframe and FET. All right. DEVVE to $10. Awesome. This is a good friend of mine. Yeah, I think it could go to $10 or much, much higher. Yeah, we can see that. So yes, YouTube does filter out some comments. I don't know exactly what the rules are on live. I try in the comments section to put some rules in there because spammers hit, especially when you see the bull market start to come along, like all kinds of like scammers post these things, and they'll have like 50 comments on some token that basically, oh, their token is still available to buy from such and such website during the ICO. Any token that you can buy directly from some website is like 99% chance it's a scam. Don't do it. And so they'll see all this flurry of activity about something. That's all like done by bots. Like they're just scam tokens. That is not real, right? And they're just trying to get your money. So some of it gets, you know, filtered out. YouTube is trying to help protect you from that, which means also some legitimate things sometimes get filtered out. Yeah, not sure what it was, but it deleted like 3 comments. So I see us finally let one go through. Had to open a new browser window. Yeah, I don't know what the rules are on live comments. Sometimes they don't make it through, and some people like, yeah, I'm not sure what is causing that. Cool. MK OMI for the win. Paul, any final comments before we wrap up?
No, let's look forward to next week, and you know, thanks for all the picks, and yeah, thank you, and see you next week.
All right, everyone. Thanks, Paul, for joining us. All right, this is the kind of market we've been waiting for, and it's been fun. Like it's like seeing everything come together. I know a lot of you have been on this journey with me during the bear market, and you should pat yourself on the back. That is the hard time. That is the time when 95% of people wash out of crypto, and that is the best time to be accumulating. Still a great time to be accumulating. The very best time was during the last year and a half, and if you missed it, that's okay. You're here now. Is as good now? Are the prices good now as they were then? No. Are they still really good? In a lot of cases, yes. This coming year, I think, is going to be quite extraordinary. And I made some prediction videos in the end of 2023 that 2024 crypto was going to be the biggest word on everyone's mind. And that's partly come true as crypto's been going off and Bitcoin breaking 100,000. But there's still some suppression on that from the news, and maybe they're unhappy that Trump won. And so they don't want to cover positive news of Bitcoin breaking 100,000. We'll see. But there's a lot more still to come with crypto going crazy. And I'm looking forward to experiencing that with you. So you're in the right place. You're here at the right time. If you haven't joined the Patreon, you might consider it. Make sure to then connect up to Discord, or you're really not receiving the benefits. Patreon is just the paywall gate that then you can access the Discord with. Thanks so much, everyone. We will see you soon. Enjoy this wrap. You know what this is all about.
Came into the space, chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, you buy before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I stick the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. Principles are simple, to leave in a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, go parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to study and to know that nothing comes easy but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this road cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crafting. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.